Hello and welcome to this video. Today I would like to talk about the command running Iposeed Load, which is available in SOFiPLUS. Have you ever wondered about how to distribute a set of loads along a curve, for instance along a line, arc spline or a polyline? Then you will be quite surprised how easy it can be done in SOFiPLUS. Before you run the command running Iposeed Load, it is necessary to do the following preparations to get a smooth run through the entire workflow. So the first thing I recommend to do is to create a reference load case number. This can be done within the load case manager. We have here the load case manager, and on the second tab we got these load cases. You see already I have 4 load cases prepared. Each of them represents one different line type in my model in the background. Important to say here is when we afterwards use the running Iposeed Load command, the program will actually duplicate an original load situation or a set of loads or a single free load. And for each of these new generated load, it will also create a new load case number. So as you might wondering why I haven't used 101, 102 and so on, this is because of this reason. I need to keep spare places for these new generated duplicates of my distribution. The second thing is you need also to create the original load set or a single free load. So in my example here I created a kind of a load model. It's not a coding any code or something like this. It's just a load model representing 3 different types of free loads. On the left hand side we got an area load, we got a point, and we get also a line load. So you can actually mix those 3 line types or load types for your set. The third thing to prepare beforehand is actually the path. Although it's not mandatory to do it, it makes sense if your geometry is a more complex one like this spline or an arc. You are able to do the path definition afterwards within the running Iposeed Load command. However, this is limited to a polygonal line, so you would end up with something like this. If this is fine for you, there's no need to set up the path beforehand. Great. As you now have a reference load and the reference load case number, as well as the path available in your system, let's focus on the command running Iposeed Load. Within the command, 4 major steps needs to be done. First, type of distribution. Second, increment of target load case. Third, select or create the path. And fourth, select the reference load. To get started, you need to open the command. You will find it in the SOFiPLUS sidebar in the Loads tab on the very end of the list of the free loads. It is called running Iposeed Load. So as you can see, the input is quite short, so there are not that much options available. However, I would like to go through them all. The first section, the very top section over here, which is named Generation of Loads, actually gives you the possibility to select what kind or what type of distribution you would like to perform, based on a fixed number of steps or based on the step size. So simply select the radio button you would like to use. The second option is the load step size. And this is actually the increment of the target load cases. I just mentioned it a few minutes ago when I showed you where you can create the reference load case number in the load case manager. The most important thing here is to understand that the program will create for each new position of your loads a new load case number. So always bear in mind that you need to have sufficient spare numbers after the reference load case to avoid any clashes with other already occupied numbers. So this is the most important thing you need to remember here. The next step is already to select the path. As I mentioned earlier, we got 4 different paths options available. We can create it based on a line, arc, spline, or a polyline. To create or select the path, use the right click, and you get these options over here in the middle of the context menu. Pick line or curves, and you can use this quite nicely. Select this option, and if you hover above a line, you see this nearest object snap to select the path. So I pick the spline over here. Okay. After I've selected the path, it's highlighted yellow. The next step is to select the reference load cases. Before I can do this, I need to confirm the path by hitting enter. So now I get the selection box from AutoCAD, and I can now select my load cases I would like to distribute along the path. So when I'm done, I can confirm those by using the enter key. And you see, straightforward, the program will duplicate my reference load cases along the path by considering a fixed number of steps of 10, and my load case numbers will increase by 1 for each single duplicate. To close the command, you can either hit the escape key or use the X on the top right of the input. However, to some point it can happen that you need to do any modifications on your generated loads. So no worries, you can simply double click on this load block to perform any settings afterwards. So I will do this. So I double click on this block, and you see the similar interface as previously will open and gives you the same available options. So I say I would like to change the number of steps to 5, change it, click on apply, and the program will immediately change this. However, if you're happy with the specific step size, I enter 5 meters for instance, click on apply, and I got this distribution. This is how you can actually modify the distribution afterwards. What is also important to understand how the rotation or the reference point of the load group of the single load looks like. So I change here the fixed numbers again to 10 and confirm with OK, and I zoom in. So we see here these are my reference loads over there. Okay, and here is already my load block, so my distributed loads. So as you can see, I got a kind of a rotation over here for this first load situation. So how does this come? Well, the program actually picks up the information on the very start at the polyline, or for instance, the path you have selected doesn't need to be a a spline line, and also remembers the tangent information of this point. So in my case, I exactly located or positioned a single load on this point just to represent it easier afterwards. So you see, the program will divide now the path exactly into 10 pieces and will rotate based on this information all following load models automatically. So keep in mind your reference point as well as the rotation is always related to the first point of your path. Last but not least, also a very important fact is the generation of the different load case numbers. So I like to show you this here in the load case manager again, and before I do this, I just go over here. See, it's the load case 103 I've used to utilize this command. So go to load case manager and load cases, and you already see here we have the reference load case, which was called spline, and the program will generate all necessary load case numbers to fulfill this distribution here in this load case manager. And it's also copied the name or the title of this load case and all other information straight. So it's quite important for you to remember when you are going to use this running and post load command that you always keep plenty of spare numbers between the reference load case number and the next load case within your project. So I will close this here again. Furthermore, when you modify the input, for instance, to 5, and you will have a look again to the load case manager, you will see the load cases are still available here, but aren't actually used from the program outside. So you will get a warning actually when you export it. So you see 5 load cases are not used, and you see the indication 307, 08, 9, 10 and 11. And the program asks you if you're happy if it's going to delete them for you. In this case, I can confirm with yes, then I could export. Here I haven't any structure line available yet, so I can't run an export. You can also delete these non-used load cases by selecting this command. So I have already deleted them quite, and so it's not available yet. And that's actually all to the running and post load command. This feature is, in my opinion, is definitely time saver to distribute loads along a path. And if you're unfamiliar with the text input CADiNP, which also provides you more advanced possibilities to distribute loads along a path or any other ways, you might prefer this option. Benefits such as the flexibility to change the reference load group and adding or removing load positions afterwards easily are worth to have a look into that tool as well. This brings me already to the end of this video. I hope you found it useful, and it would be awesome if you subscribe to my channel. I will also put further information to the topic running in post load, as well as a DWG file or a link to the DWG file with the examples I showed you today, so you can download it and test it out by yourself. So thank you very much for watching. See you next time and take care.